total disclaimer, I know it says in the program I'm doing stand-up, but I have neither the discipline, talent, or courage to do it, so I'm just going to tell you a fun story. I hope that's
Woo, fun!
So many cultures around the world have different ways of defining when you become a woman. You know, for some it's, you know, in the past it's been when you start your period and you can start to bear children, which is kind of gross. To some, there's some kind of ceremony, like a quinceañera or a bat mitzvah, I believe, or a super sweet 16. For some, it's like when you lose your virginity or when you get married, and I have a whole other tangential rant about that. You can ask me about it later. But for me, I didn't really truly feel like a woman until I got my first yeast infection last year. And this is the part where I kind of, you know, disclaimer, I went to Berkeley, I drank the Bay Area progressive Kool-Aid, I was like waterboarded in it. I understand that definition is extremely problematic, I'm sorry, but I already wrote this, and so forgive me for like the next 10 minutes and just come along for the journey, that would be awesome. So, for the uninitiated, a yeast infection is what happens when the yeast that's already in your body overgrows and crowds out the good bacteria that lives there, that keeps like everything good and running and self-cleaning. And here lies the problem, because the things that increase your risk for a yeast infection, okay, the Venn diagram of the things that increase your risk for a yeast infection, and the circle of things that Jess loves and defines her identity and sparks immense joy in her life, is essentially one circle. That list includes hot baths, like scorching hot baths, lush bath bombs, excessive carb intake, drinking, and like other things. We'll go into that. I'm being recorded right now. And the big one, sex. So let's back up. So in the past year, a few months before I had experienced my first yeast infection, I had moved from the Bay Area back home to LA, and I decided, and I was single for the first time in like 5 years. So I decided I was going to use this time to really, you know, have my sexual exploration period and, you know, be like Samantha in Sex and the City. I think every millennial woman of a certain age that like relates to this, like you kind of want to be one of them at some point in your life. Yeah. You realize it's like pretty problematic and you should not base your life decisions on an HBO TV show that was produced in the early 2000s. Extremely problematic. But I was like, So I was like, no, I blossomed, I'm gonna make up for lost time. Because I was very good in college. But what I didn't realize, probably at the time, that it wasn't so much sexual liberation as it was me trying to run from a lot of other different things. I had just moved from the home and a family that I had built over 6 years. I was questioning my life choice to go work in a nonprofit art space and not being able to support myself fully, and, you know, having my mother constantly worry about what I was going to do in my life. Was she ever going to retire? You know, did she have to support me forever? And my sister, who was my best friend, had really just started the next phase of her life, going to grad school, getting serious with her boyfriend, and she couldn't take me along. But no, I just thought I wanted to be Samantha in Sex and the City. So I'm out, I'm having a good time, and then the yeast infection comes. And let me tell you, a yeast infection is the biggest cock block you will ever experience. Okay? Symptoms include burning, itching, hurting when you pee, and the discharge. It is extremely not pleasant. It's horrible. And worse than that, it really, you know, the physical symptoms are bad, but it really just kind of made me have to face a lot of things I had been avoiding for a very long time. For one, I had to finally go see my gynecologist. I had been avoiding seeing a gynecologist for years because I was deathly afraid of getting a pap smear. again, for the uninitiated, that's when they scrape your cervix and then they see if you have, any kind of diseases or like HPV. Very important, you should definitely get one. But they like constantly remind you if you've never gotten a pap smear, and then they're like kind of pushy about it, like hey, we see you haven't gotten a pap smear, like you should really schedule one. And you're like, okay, everyone's like, do you want me to schedule one? And I was like, no, I'll take care of it. And like you just feel so bad that you've never gotten one, or like so overdue that you don't want to go face your gynecologist. So it's like when you have like an email, like a work email that you've been putting off, and before you put it off, you don't want to answer it, but then instead of finding out like it's Tom Hanks emailing you at the end of the movie, it's HPV, and like, oh god, I should have taken that sooner. But I bit the bullet, and I went to go get my first checkup, got my pap smear. It's like totally fine, like if you're scared of that, it's like totally fine. She's like, yeah, you have a yeast infection. It's like, great. She gives me the fluconazole, which is an antifungal pill that you could take orally, and she's like, here, take this. Here's some ointment. You should be good in a week. I was like, cool, no harm, no foul. But a week passed, I'm okay. Another week passed, and it comes back like a Britney Spears song. Stronger than yesterday. So, back to the gyno I go. And she's like, well, sometimes you have, women have very, very strong, very persistent strains, rare cases. So here, I'm going to give you 2 pills. And here's this vaginal suppository. For the uninitiated, that is an ointment that they give you, and you're supposed to put it in a tube and stick it up your vagina and like, and they tell you to do this at night, because if you do it when you're trying to live your life, it just comes out of you. So you're kind of like, you lay the towel down, like on the bed, right? You lay the towel down before you go to sleep. You're like all ready for bed. You moisturize. You're like laying down. You're like, like legs up, like cool. And you're like, all right, it's in. And then you're just laying there, and you're like, God, I hope it doesn't come out. Like you're trying not to move too much. You're just sitting there, and you're like, God, I'm so stressed out. How am I supposed to sleep? But 3 days. 3 days is manageable. It's like a weekend, and you take the weekend off. I was like, this will definitely. She gave me like the extra strength stuff too. So I was like, all right, great. It's okay. Just another roadblock. But nothing changes. So I'm getting very worried at this point, and I'm thinking it's time to like kick it up a notch. So I go to the gynecologist for the 3rd time. And this time they're like, yeah, we have to make sure it's not any more serious underlying causes. They do a blood test, and Asian girl, small veins, deep. They poke me 3 times, and it's not great. I'm like bleeding, and like it's really unpleasant. And but the worst part is that it's like this older to middle-aged man who. Men can be gynecologists, but if you're going to be a gynecologist, you should probably listen to the women who are coming into your office and telling you their problems. So he's extremely condescending, and at a certain point, I just find myself bursting into tears in his office, like legs in stirrups, pantsless, just crying, and he does not look fazed at all. Like no words of comfort, no like, there, it's fine. And he's like, at this point, he's just like, just keep doing what you're doing. Sometimes these things last for a few months. I'm like, what? Sometimes a year. I'm like, what? So this entire time, I'm not doing very well, to be honest. I've not able to wear tight pants, which in Los Angeles is like what you live in from the months of February to November, like shorts. It was also like Coachella weekend, so I was like, what am I gonna do? I cut out sugar from my diet. I cut out carbs from my diet. I stopped drinking. And at that point, I'm just like, I can't do anything. All my friends are going out. I'm just gonna stay in. And worse than that was, as an extrovert, if you can tell, I'm an extrovert. We really like to talk out our problems, like to anybody who will listen. And surprisingly, no one likes to hear about yeast infections, especially not over meals. And the friends who will kind of hear you out, like even though they're sympathetic, you just feel this sense of judging. Like it's your fault that you got a yeast infection or that you got it because you were living like an immoral lifestyle, which is definitely how my mother felt. And I wasn't doing well. I basically barred myself in the room. I refused to go out. There was nothing really for me to do. I'll move on to this. And I guess this is the point where I start wrapping up the story and I try to tell you what the moral is, because there is one, I think. And, you know, I have this theory that your deepest rooted issues or insecurities come from your preteen years, like when you're in middle school. So if you were like the fat kid, you're always the fat kid. Like if you were like, if you had acne, like you're always kind of be like worried about your acne. So I was like the funny but not pretty girl. And again, like looking back, it's really dumb. Like why should you care what the opinion of 10 to 12-year-old boys is? Like it's not a great way to live your life. But you know, I couldn't help but realize that a lot of what I was trying to do was get validation to not feel like that girl anymore. And there was no more distractions for me. There were no more distractions. I couldn't club my way out of feeling that. I couldn't flirt my way out of feeling that. I couldn't hook up my way out of feeling that. I just kind of had to sit there and think about who I was and what I was doing and what made me truly happy. So I also have to preface that I have an HMO, which is a very bad medical plan, a very bad medical insurance. So my yeast infection started in April, and it didn't really like calm down until like August. So it was like 4 months of this terrible, terrible experience. And finally, when I went to my 4th gynecologist visit, he's, you know, same routine, stirrups, checking, and he's like, okay, I have news for you. I was like, okay, what's going on now? He's like, you're fine. I'm like, what? You're fine. You don't have a yeast infection anymore. I'm like, but I don't feel any different. Like, I feel different, but you're saying I'm fine? Like, nothing's wrong with me? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wait, that can't be. Like, just my body is not the same. He's like, well, sometimes things change. And I'm like, damn, this is like some fortune cookie stuff. It was like an old Asian guy, but like a nice one, like my grandpa, which sounds weird, but it's actually very nice. He was like, sometimes things change, and your body changes as you get older, and you know, it's fine. You're perfectly fine. And I should have felt relieved. Instead, all I felt was like mad. Like, why did I cut out carbs and drinking and my pants for all that time? So I'm fine now.
Yay!
Things are good. Mentally, emotionally, it's all good. And oh yeah, so yeah, I'm fine now. And I think, you know, I do like those 4 or 5 months where I just had to sit with myself and really think about what made me happy, what I wanted, what brought me joy. I think did change me into a better person. So I can't be truly upset that I had this raging and persistent yeast infection. I don't particularly want to invite it back though. But you know, maybe like the yeast that overgrew in my vaginal walls, this version of me was inside all along. I just had